Talks between the United States and Iran are set to continue after a round of mediated discussions in Oman. Talks that Iran's foreign minister has described as a good beginning. But behind that diplomatic language lies a more stark reality. Deep mistrust, hard red lines, and the constant risk that diplomacy could collapse into conflict. So, what actually happened in Oman, and why are these talks so difficult? Let's decode this. Now, at the center of the discussions is Iran's nuclear program, specifically uranium enrichment. Iran says it has the right to do this. Officials argue enrichment is about producing energy and medical supplies, and that giving it up would mean giving up control over its own technology. For Tehran, that's a line it says it won't cross, no matter the pressure. The United States sees a risk. The more uranium Iran enriches, the closer it could get to the material needed for a nuclear weapon. That shortens the window for the world to respond, something Washington and Israel say they simply cannot accept. This is why enrichment has always been the single hardest issue in every round of negotiations. But then there's another major dispute: what should and should not be discussed at all. The US wants negotiations to include Iran's ballistic missile program and its support for armed groups across the Middle East, including Hezbollah and militias in Iraq and Yemen. American officials argue that these issues are inseparable from Iran's nuclear ambitions and regional behavior. Iran flatly rejects that. Tehran says its missile program is purely defensive, developed after decades of sanctions, isolation, and war, particularly the Iran-Iraq war when it was attacked with little international support. Iranian leaders argue missiles are a core part of national defense and not up for negotiation, especially with a country that maintains military bases across the region. These talks are actually also happening at a uniquely dangerous moment. The United States has dramatically increased its military presence in the Middle East, sending warships, fighter jets, and thousands of troops to the region. In fact, President Donald Trump has openly threatened military action if diplomacy fails. Iran, meanwhile, has warned that any attack would trigger a regional response, potentially drawing in US forces, Israel and Iran-backed groups across the Middle East. So, why talk now? Well, for Iran, analysts say the pressure is immense. The country seems to be facing its most serious internal crisis in decades. For the US, the goal appears to be containment, preventing escalation while maintaining pressure and keeping military options still on the table. That's why expectations remain low. These talks are less about reaching a historic breakthrough and more about buying time, managing risk, and preventing a sudden slide into war. Now, whether diplomacy can bridge the gap on enrichment, missiles, and mutual distrust remains the defining question. WION decodes complex issues into simplified concepts. What do you want us to decode next? Let us know. Stay tuned.